From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
President Donald Trump announced today on Twitter that he will not allow transgender individuals to serve in the military in any capacity. In a series of tweets, he said, quote, "Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail," end quote.
Another Arizona lawmaker, Congressman Ruben Gallego, was looking at the debate from two perspectives, as both a lawmaker and a veteran. Gallego was part of the tweet parade in opposition to the transgender ban today, but he also joined advocates and other lawmakers outside the Capitol to call for a reversal of the ban. Our Washington, D.C. reporter Emma Lockhart was there today. Emma? The Capitol made the point that on this day in 1948, President Harry Truman desegregated the military. But today, many of the lawmakers at the press conference said they find themselves still fighting for equality for all soldiers. It took President Donald Trump 3 tweets this morning to lay out his policy on transgender people serving in the military. It took Arizona Representative Ruben Gallego, a veteran of the war in Iraq, one word to sum it up: stupid.
If somebody was taken out of my team all of a sudden because of some stupid tweet, I would be really ticked off.
And ticked off was just what transgender activist Mark Kiesling was.
This is unconscionable. It is bad military policy. It is bad foreign policy. It is bad domestic policy. It is bad humanity.
In those tweets, Trump says that the ban is in part due to medical costs transgender people would need, a point that Kiesling says is unjust for the estimated thousands of active military and veterans who are transgender.
I will say this, and I will say it very clearly. We as Americans never have and never should tell service members they cannot have medical treatment that their military doctors say they need, period.
Gallego is calling on his constituents for support.
Join us, call your senators, call your members of Congress, and demand that we protect our 15,000 veterans and current military personnel.
We tried to reach out to volunteers at the Veterans Affairs Hospital in Tucson, which is one of a handful of clinics for transgender veterans in the country, but they have not responded to us as of this evening. Live in Washington, Emma Lockhart, Cronkite News.
And as soon as the president's tweet went out, Arizona responded very quickly as well. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Finger is in the broadcast center with that angle of the story tonight. Tyler?
Felisa, in a series of tweets this morning, months of preparation gone with a few simple strokes on a keyboard. For some here in Arizona, what President Trump did today is shocking. As a former Marine, Marcia Clark knows what it means to serve, no matter what.
This is who I am, and I will not surrender from that position, nor retreat from it.
More than 25 years ago, Clark served this country as a man. She now identifies as a woman.
When the cry for patriots is made, there's never an asterisk put next to it.
Now the policy put into place last year could soon end. And for Clark, that's not right.
No one asked what your gender was for the Marines that charged into Bella Wood or raised a flag at Iwo Jima.
This change could affect thousands. According to a 2016 RAND study, there are between 2,500 and 7,000 transgender active duty service members, with another 1,500 to 4,000 in the reserves. For the Arizona branch of the American Civil Liberties Union, if this change happens, they're ready to fight.
There's no need to panic right now. If the rules and regulations are changed so that transgender people aren't able to serve or aren't able to serve openly, the ACLU and other organizations are ready.
But for Clark, this change shouldn't be on the table.
This ultimate outright discrimination is based on inconsistent information and a lack of facts, and it's being done to meet a political mean.
That conversation wasn't an easy one for her. She broke down several times when she was looking at an old picture of herself in uniform. It just proves how difficult this conversation is. As for President Trump's tweets, the ACLU tells me that it is far from a done deal. In the broadcast center, Tyler Finger, Cronkite News.
While Senator McCain was officially back to cast votes on the health reform bill and the defense budget, there was another reason behind his return. The veteran senator brought a forceful message to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle about the dysfunction that is gripping Washington. Cronkite News reporter Emma Lockhart was at the Capitol.
Arizona Senator John McCain did not mince words for his fellow senators today. He's blaming Republicans and Democrats alike for refusing to work together and solve the nation's problems. He said it's time to stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio, television, and internet, and for senators to trust each other again.
Let's return to regular order. We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle. We're getting nothing done, my friends. We're getting nothing done. I have every intention of returning here and giving many of you cause to regret all the nice things you said about me.
McCain left shortly after the address. He said he intends to go home and focus on his recovery. At the Capitol, Emma Lockhart, Cronkite News.
A new era of leadership at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is providing an opportunity for a fresh start with the Latino community. But as Patricio Espinoza reports, many are still unhappy and are expressing their views at a series of community meetings with MCSO. Patricio?
Yes, in the past, court-mandated community meetings were managed by what's called a community advisory board and a court-appointed monitor. Now, a judge has given the new sheriff, Pinzon, permission to lead the effort. More than 300 people showed up to the first meeting under MCSO guidance, and the feedback was loud and clear.
7 años de racismo, persecución, odio.
7 years of racism, persecution, hate, intolerance. Now is the time it should change under the new sheriff.
Sheriff Pinzon wasn't there to hear the concerns firsthand, but told Cronkite News he knows there's work to be done.
And I recognize that there is one, particular group that was, I'll just say it, that was mistreated by my predecessor, and I'm very sensitive to that issue.
And there's one thing Raul Pena, a court-ordered community advisory board member, says the Latino community wants: to have MCSO stop working with immigration authorities.
Well, I would ask the sheriff to really look into the faces of the families and the children that are being impacted by the mass deportation force and say, do you really want to be associated with that?
Sheriff Pinzon has already made changes. His department is no longer practicing what was called courtesy holds.
It was deemed to be a violation of the Fourth Amendment, so I immediately stopped that practice.
But those at the meeting insist that's not enough, because federal agents remain in the county jails, able to interview, detain, and deport detainees.
We're also sensitive to the people in the community that are being impacted directly. Their families are being separated, and then we're going to continue to say, you can terminate this arrangement today, and you refuse to do that.
Are you legally bound to have the ICE?
No, there's not a legal requirement. But
so you could say no today if you wanted to.
I could, but I choose not to, and I choose not to, and I hope that that this is in totality the statement, because there are people who have committed crimes, who may be here unlawfully, and if another agency, law enforcement agency, has an interest in engaging them in a safe environment prior to them being released out to the street, I'm going to grant that opportunity.
And the next community meeting is coming up next month, where some Latino community activists say communication needs to be improved even sooner. They're asking for more Spanish language outreach and a professional translator at each meeting. In the Brosca Center, Patricio Espinoza, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Department of Transportation made a major change to its driver license manual. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Finger is in the broadcast center tonight, and he tells us why the state is hoping this could be a positive change for our rights.
Yeah, that's right. To get your driver's license, you're tested on this manual. But now if you flip through to page 56, you'll find a section dedicated to traffic stops. The hope to prevent a deadly encounter with police when pulled over. The Arizona Department of Public Safety and the Arizona Department of Transportation both think this change will have a positive impact here in Arizona. You may remember this traffic stop.
I do have a firearm on me.
When a Minnesota police officer opened fire on Philando Castile, killing him back in 2016. But now an Arizona lawmaker is hoping a change he pushed for will prevent it from happening here.
I don't want another Philando Castile. I don't want that to happen. And I want to make sure that we are trying to prevent any type of shootings that take place at traffic stops before they even occur.
Arizona is one of the first states in the nation to change their driver's license manual to add a section like this. For State Representative Reginald Boulding, this change is about education.
We need to make sure that here in Arizona, a state that has a number of guns out on the street, a number of guns that are riding in vehicles of individuals, that we're having some sort of education.
In it, they outline best practices that drivers should follow when pulled over by law enforcement, like things as simple as putting the car in park to letting the officer know if you have any weapons on you.
It's always good to look at things in society that affect drivers, and if we can add some information that's a benefit to everybody that's a driver, then we're certainly going to give a good look to that, and this was certainly one of those very positive situations.
The Arizona Department of Public Safety was also involved in this change. For the director, it's a message drivers should read.
If we can teach youth what to do when they're stopped and impact the next generation, maybe most of these miscommunications become something of the past.
State Representative Boulding is happy the change has been made, but says the state and country still have a long way to go.
It's important that drivers recognize what to expect when they're stopped, but it's even more important that drivers recognize and understand their rights.
Other traffic stop suggestions include lowering the windows in your car, especially if they're tinted. At night, turning on all of the lights inside the vehicle so the officer can see inside. And a simple but very important one to remember, keep your hands firmly on the steering wheel. Also, they recommend listening to and complying with any of an officer's directions. In the broadcast center, Tyler Finger, Cronkite News.
State Representative Bob Thorpe of Flagstaff is working on new legislation this summer. And if you're a college student, it could restrict your right to vote. Here's Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley, who learned how this bill in progress would affect out-of-state students.
Bob Thorpe kept his seat as representative of Arizona District 6 by a slim margin in the last election. His district includes Northern Arizona University, but if he has it his way, college students in dorms won't get a say in Arizona elections for much longer. As the next legislative session nears, Flagstaff Representative Bob Thorpe is drafting a bill to restrict student voting rights, telling the Arizona Republic college students unfairly influence Arizona elections, a concept that other House members call voter suppression.
I have serious reservations. I'm really concerned, and I think it's absolutely wrong.
Isela Blanc represents Arizona District 26, which includes ASU.
We're not even looking at the snowbirds that are also temporary residents. Clearly, we are trying to suppress the young people from voting.
From a local perspective, there are over 2.2 million registered voters in Maricopa County, and less than 2,400 of those are registered to dorm addresses, according to the county recorder's office. But to Recorder Adrian Fontes, those numbers shouldn't matter at all.
You've got individuals who are choosing to come to Arizona. They are contributing to our economy by consuming, by renting, by paying for gas and buying clothes and all of that sort of stuff. They're part of our community.
Thorpe introduced a similar bill back in January of 2017, House Bill 2260, which, due in large part to an outcry on social media, was killed. But both Blanc and Fontes don't see much of a difference between that bill and this one.
This is, at its core, disenfranchisement. This is actually true voter suppression from an official perspective.
Arizona Secretary of State Michelle Reagan, a Republican, disagrees with this legislation as well. In a statement to Cronkite News, Reagan said in part, quote, "Our office has committed to make it easier for students to register to vote. Combined with our college outreach programs, we hope the 2018 election cycle will greater numbers of students participate."
And if you're preventing students from voting in their first elections that they might be 18, 19, 20 years old at, then what message are you sending?
Cronkite News reached out to Representative Thorpe multiple times. He declined an on-camera interview for this story and did not respond to our requests for a statement. Tyler Paley, Cronkite News. It's been 10 years since the collision of two news helicopters over central Phoenix. 4 people were killed. Both crews were covering a police chase and crashed over Steele Indian School Park. Today at 12:45 p.m., the time of the crash, families and friends gathered in a moment of silence at the memorial site. They honored those lost. KTVK Channel 3's Scott Bowerbank and Jim Cox, along with Channel 15's Craig Smith and Rich Krolak. To celebrate their lives, the family of photographer Jim Cox donated a series of scholarships to 50 high school and college students. To date, they have given over $76,000 in grants. Today, they announced a new scholarship for the Cronkite School of Journalism.
And it'll ensure that his name will last in perpetuity. It's a scholarship that is endowed. It'll go on forever, and anybody can contribute to it. So we're very happy to do something for a school that he dearly loved.
The money from the James Cox Endowment will provide a $1,000 scholarship for students.
Arizona does have mandatory seatbelt laws, but for those on 2 wheels, safety has a different standard. Cronkite News reporter Sarah Haddis tells us how one state legislator is trying to make the roads safer for cyclists.
That's right, Annika. Arizona has no regulated bicycle helmet laws or texting while driving laws, making cyclists more prone to accidents on the roadway. I spoke with one man who credits his life to his helmet.
Avid cyclist Brendan Lyons has been hit by a car not once, not twice, but 3 times. The last one almost took his life.
On the morning of my girlfriend's birthday, we went out for a ride, and a distracted motorist at 45 miles an hour took his eyes off the road and struck us in the bike lane from behind. I don't remember anything.
The Tucson resident was hospitalized for a month with 6 fractured vertebrae, a fractured pelvis, and suffered a traumatic brain injury that forced him to relearn how to walk. Despite the long and painful recovery, he credits his life to one piece of equipment.
I mean, I greatly attribute this to saving my life.
Other Arizona cyclists haven't been so fortunate. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reveals Tucson has the 2nd highest number of cyclist fatalities per million people. Phoenix ranked 4th. Numbers that hit home for Karen Wilson.
My son Daniel Wilson was 30 years old when he was killed on his bicycle. And my husband, he is just mad. He lost his son. He had plans to retire, and he wanted to go work with his son. Sorry. And we thought it would just be different. It's Plan B.
State Senator Steve Farley has introduced multiple bills to improve safety on the road. He's tried to ban texting while driving, and in 2014, he introduced legislation that would have required cyclists under the age of 18 to wear helmets. Neither bill reached the floor for a vote.
They generally don't get heard because it's hard for a Democrat to get a bill passed. This is as nonpartisan issue as you can get.
Vice Chairman of the Senate Transportation and Technology Committee, Republican Karen Fann, says that bike helmet laws have not been passed because the Arizona legislature prefers fewer laws, putting responsibility on the people.
For those who are adults, it's a more tricky issue because that is a situation where if people choose to take their own lives in their hands, it's a bad decision, but it's one that maybe they have the right to make.
As one of 29 states without a youth helmet law, safety advocates say education takes on even greater importance. At a recent Boys and Girls Club bike giveaway, Phoenix police officers and firefighters gave out new bikes and helmets and taught proper bike safety skills.
You got to protect your brain. Really hard to fix your head. We can fix your arms and your legs with casts and everything, but when you hurt your brain or you damage it in any way, sometimes it's permanent. If you're wearing that helmet or something, it's going to protect you.
That is the message Brendan Lyons preaches. He also hopes Arizona will do its best to protect cyclists through future legislation.
A 2016 study by Australian statisticians Jake Oliver and Prudence Creighton found that helmet use reduces a cyclist's chance of suffering a head injury by 70% and reduces fatal head injuries by 65%. In the broadcast center, Sarah Haddis, Cronkite News.
17 hours a year. According to an INRIX parking pain study, that's how much time we spend looking for parking. Blakely McHugh introduces us to a new web app designed to save Arizona State students time on parking, leaving more time for class.
It's an issue that ASU students face every day: limited parking availability and expensive parking prices. But two entrepreneurs are trying to do something about that benefits students and the homeowners.
It's called Air Garage, a place where homeowners can rent out their driveways, carports, or even garages to people who need somewhere to park. Co-founders Jonathan Barkle and Scott Fitzsimmons came up with the idea after hearing complaints about the high cost and limited options of parking on campus.
So that's kind of where Air Garage was born, is, it's making this option of finding parking within the community and giving back to the homeowners that maybe, don't use those spaces.
Parking at ASU can cost as much as $15 a day or more than $700 for an annual permit.
Totally way too expensive because I pay $6 a day, so it's a whole new budget,
With Air Garage, renters can pay between $25 to $65 per month. Barkle says the website design was made with easy accessibility in mind.
It's really straightforward, and we tried to make it as easy as possible for everyone involved.
The process starts off by clicking Find a Spot. The website then shows a map of available spaces, the price, location, and description of the spot. From there, the user can book the space for the time they want. Although some spaces are a mile away, Al-Shahab says it would be worth the walk.
Since I'm saving money, the extra mile won't hurt.
Barkle hopes that Air Garage will make parking easier for everyone.
Parking shouldn't be a pain, really, at this point in our lives.
And if Air Garage proves popular, Barkle hopes to expand and include businesses and churches as well. In Tempe, Blakely McHugh, Cronkite News.
Right now, ASU is the only school involved, but the co-founders hope that will change as the web app gains popularity.
And Tyler, when your home is in the pathway of that severe storm, major damage can occur. Emily Bloom joins us to talk about different forms of damage control.
Yeah, guys, it's days like today when our homes are at damage, and unfortunately, many of us don't realize that we are at risk until it's too late. I had the opportunity to talk to two Valley women, and they are sharing some advice with us on how we can prepare for these monsoon weathers. For most of the year, home maintenance here in Phoenix is pretty easy, but when the monsoon rolls in, it can be a completely different story.
Get prepared outside and inside so that not a lot of things bad happen to you and aftermath is to a minimum.
Andrea Garcia knows firsthand just how powerful these storms can be.
The overwhelming part wasn't that the water came up, it was that why isn't the water going away?
You may remember almost 3 years ago, a Mesa neighborhood nearly destroyed following an intense monsoon storm.
We just kept sweeping back out to the street to try to not let it go into our homes.
Garcia was one of the many victims of that flood, and years later, folks in that neighborhood are still making repairs.
Call your local city if you see areas of your neighborhood that are plugged up when you notice that it rains.
Garcia says if you see areas that fill up when it rains lightly, that's a red flag of areas that could become much worse when we really get hit by the monsoon. It's situations like these when having an emergency preparedness kit on hand can be so useful.
Some bottled water, first aid kit, some light sticks that you just snap, and then it's a light source.
She also recommends flashlights, batteries, a wireless power source, and a portable charger for your phone.
With all the dust and debris in the water, you may want to but you may want to definitely change your air filters in the house,
because those are collecting all the dust and debris from that monsoon air. Now, of course, some situations are entirely out of our control, but it certainly doesn't hurt to over-prepare.
I mean, and that's the Phoenix summer for you. You're sweating one day and drenched in rain the next.
While dog owners in other parts of the country enjoy summer hikes with their four-legged friends, owners in Arizona look for other ways to safely exercise their pets outdoors. Cronkite News reporter Danielle Lincecum found a dog club in Cave Creek that has owners and dogs diving for joy.
3 times a month, you can find the Arizona Dock Dogs diving into the pool.
It partners dog training in Cave Creek. The Dock Diving Club trains dogs to jump into the water for fun and sport in 3 different disciplines.
Big air, which is where you hold the toy, throw the toy, and the dog jumps in the water for distance. The second one is extreme vertical, where the toy is high up in the air and the dog has to jump and get the toy and come down. And the third one is called speed retrieve, where the toy is at the end of the pool. The dog jumps into the water, swims to get the toy, and that is for time. So we have 1 for distance, 1 for height, 1 for time.
Keeping active dogs exercised can be difficult in the Phoenix area, where 90 days last year saw temperatures over 100 degrees. For these owners, Dock Dogs is the answer.
Gives them an activity in the summertime because at noon you can't put your dogs on asphalt, you can't take them for a walk, but you can come here and put them in a pool. And they love it, and they'll get worn out and have a good time.
I got started doing this about 3 months ago with my Golden, who's 7 months old. Right now he's just learning to jump into the water. The further you go, the better.
Arizona Dock Dogs started 8 years ago and holds competitions around the state. However, Dock Dogs is international, giving members the opportunity to compete across the country and around the world.
I was at an agility trial with my last lab named Star, and there was a dock there. We started jumping off the dock right away, went to a competition, qualified, went to nationals, and finished 4th in nationals. Still playing Dock Dogs with my new dog record.
My dog, Whiskey, has placed nationally several years in a row. He's actually, I think right now, he's about 5th in the world for extreme vertical, which is the up. But historically, he's been 3rd, 4th in the world. His personal best is 8 feet, which is 10 feet off the water.
Though there is opportunity to be competitive, Adam says there is no pressure. It's a game that anyone can come play and enjoy. The sport is open to all dogs, no matter their age, size, or breed. In Cave Creek, Danielle Lincecum, Cronkite News.
Outside the pool, the Arizona Humane Society says to be mindful of your dog's paws on hot pavement and never leave your pet in the car.